Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. The RedAss podcast is back. We are here. We're ready to rock and roll. It's been a hot minute. We've been running around like crazy people, but we are ready to rock and roll and get right back into this stuff. And we're so excited to be here. My name is Rob White, class of 14.
And I'm Roy May, class of 15. That had some real WWE vibes intros.
Well, I'll be honest. I just listened to Rogan and Hulk Hogan yesterday. So that particular podcast where he's like, "We got to get this thing going, brother." It's like the vibes are there today, and I'm excited, man.
I can't believe that he's still going. I have no idea how old Hulk Hogan is, but I can't imagine that he's young.
He just turned 70, and he's getting ready to marry his new wife, who's 47 with 3 kids. So he's ready to rock and roll.
I gotta be honest, I think that kind of checks out.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's been a while, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so to open this up, I think we're just going to talk a little bit about what's been going on since. So, Rob, I'm going to let you start, man.
Yeah, sure thing. Absolutely, guys. So, long story short for me, I've been just burning and turning everywhere with music. We've been staying very busy. Sold out Green Hall earlier this summer. Had our first debut headline at Billy Bob's up there in Fort Worth, and that was cool. Just recently played the Tap and Stillwater, Oklahoma. And we're
The
getting
old
ready.
Tap.
The old Tap, man. I love the Tap. One of my all-time old stops, man.
You also don't have to drive very far to do it. So.
No, that's the nice part. We haven't had to worry about that too much.
Well, it's a good venue local, so it's not a massive road trip, and it's still a good show.
It's a phenomenal show. I mean, we had about 450 or some odd in there. It was a nice full crowd. Great energy in the building, which is always a good deal. Then when we went up to Stillwater, same deal. Great energy from that crowd. Oklahoma State, good people up there. We like them. And after that, we're just we're about to just get really rolling. Hitting tours. Got a handful of big shows coming up, and we'll highlight those as the weeks come along. But yeah, it's been a lot of music for me. The other thing that's been really interesting is I've been able to exercise a little creativity lately. I've been working with a couple of companies to help make band merchandise and posters and stuff like that, which has been very cool for me in my creative realm. But also been able to start my own line of merchandise, which you can see right here, old Shred Dirt. Those are my guys. And and the whole origin of the term is, you consider red dirt music, but it rocks a little harder. So it's Shred Dirt. So that's where the name idea came from. So yeah, I've been enjoying being creative in that realm, but been doing that, and life's been pretty good. A little chaotic up and down, love and loss, but hey, we're here and everything's good. So, and it's fall. Everybody's back in town. It's been a party.
It's fall by calendar only.
Yeah, certainly not with the temperature outside.
Yeah, a couple day reprieve, right? I have I guess I'll just get into it. So I'm obviously in real estate with BAAACK Realty Group. I'm getting to work for and with Megan and Gabe Bach, which is it really is. I'm trying to remember last time. I don't remember if I was a realtor last time when we finally got when we kind of had to take a break. I might have just been getting into it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were getting your toes wet for sure.
Yeah, so this is definitely my forever job. I'm thrilled with it. I love who I work with. I love who I work for. So shameless plug, BAACK Realty Group. If you're looking at anything real estate in the Brazos Valley, I'm certainly here. I can do just about all of it. I just don't do commercial, but if you got commercial needs, I know who to send you to. But so just blowing and going, man. Real estate, it's crazy because we live in such a different market here in the Bryan College Station area. You see a lot of the gloom and doom at a national level, but we it's a little different here in the Brazos Valley, obviously, because the 75,000 person university, I think it's like 68 or 69,000 of them are actually like here on campus. Then you add Blinn, and then you also add all the profs, all the staff, everybody, and all of a sudden it really is a bubble that can sustain itself a little bit differently. So it's been interesting seeing that as I try to keep my eye on the national markets, but also Obviously I work here in the local market. It's a little bit bigger reach though. We switch brokerages to Real Brokerage, and it's a cloud-based brokerage. And so I have a little bit more freedom to drive a little bit further. It's not just Brazos Valley, it's kind of the greater Brazos Valley. I'll work this side of Houston, the markets that I know, kind of where I grew up. I'll head all the way just this side of I won't go in Waco, just because the market's a little bit different in Waco. But really, I mean, if you can kind of just carve out, you know, south of DFW and then kind of carve over to this side of Austin, San Antonio, and down to Houston, just a touch. Because I'm also working a lot with farm and ranch stuff too. So obviously real estate, sorry, that kind of turned into commercial. But I mean, that's my job. That's my profession, right? I'm in the middle of a master bath renovation, which is taking 1,000,000 years. And so that's thrilling. My daughter is now a fighting Texas Aggie fish at Texas A&M.
Whoop.
Yeah, I know, right? Class of 27. She went to her first football game this past weekend as a member of the 12th man.
27, dude. I didn't need to hear that number.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just I mean, things have been going great. And and people mostly know me as generally a cynical human being. I'm neither an optimist nor a pessimist. I'm just kind of like very cynical. And a lot of that has changed in last couple of weeks, to be honest. And we'll get to that, like this weird positivity Roy, which is a different Roy. But as is with the RedAss podcast, we're going to talk some sports. We're going to talk some life. We are never going to talk politics.
Ever.
So that pretty much covers it. And what I want to get into, obviously, and to be honest, I would care to be a little bit more Premier League heavy from time to time.
Sure.
For the 3 or 4 people that that listen that love the Premier League. But obviously Aggie football's on everybody's mind. College football's on everybody's mind. You had week 0 where never in my life will you hear me say it, but I was like, go Navy all day at that Dublin game. But so week 0, I thought it kind of sucked outside of that game, and that game really wasn't entertaining either.
No, and of course, Notre Dame basically getting a true home game.
Shout out to see if I can get the blur to stop.
There you go, right in front of your face.
There it is. So shout out to Jonna for hooking me up with that cup. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, as both patrons on this podcast, we neither one of us are staunch Tottenham supporters, so that makes life a lot easier for us.
No. So yeah, turns out if you have a couple of cocktails and you get on the Arctic website, you can pretty much make any cup. So, so we got into week 1 where football really started. And obviously we're not going to sit here and recap everything, because by the time that we get this one kicked out, you will have heard every recap in the history of mankind about every game and in every manner.
Sure.
Obviously, but what I want to talk about is kind of leading forward in the foxhole. Obviously, we got Miami coming up this weekend. It's a really, really huge game. It's a big game for both teams. But obviously, we're going to come at it from a little bit more of a Texas A&M standpoint. Road game, chance to make a statement. And I know, so last year we played Miami, and turns out Miami and us were both about kind of doo-doo, right? Both ended up 5-7.
Yeah, not exactly the 2 seasons that we were both hoping for, but it was a preseason matchup that a lot of people looked at with a lot of intrigue. They thought it was going to be a great game. And in all regards, the game, when it took place, it was a fun matchup.
It was entertaining. We just didn't realize that what we were watching was kind of a pillow fight.
No doubt.
Really so my daughter didn't get a dorm, so she's living at home. But we didn't realize that both teams were going to be what they were last year, and that totally sucked. But this year, it's kind of that, with a new season comes new hope, right? Everybody's hopeful. And then after week 1, I thought, both teams, I think, still have plenty of reason to be optimistic about this coming season. You look back and we played, you can call them cupcakes wherever you want to, they played Miami, Ohio. We played New Mexico. I wouldn't in a million years actually spend my precious time researching Miami of Ohio and New Mexico in an attempt to compare them as opponents.
No.
But I can tell you what we saw. What we saw from a Miami side was a very balanced attack. They did pound it on the ground quite a bit. They got 250 yards. Was it 250? Yeah, 250 yards rushing.
Yeah,
So they pounded it quite a bit. Um, Miami, Ohio, when you're averaging 4 yards a play, that's not terrible because when you average 4 yards a play, you never punt. So
exactly.
it's questionable where uh where maybe the Miami defense is. I believe I heard earlier today there's they're untested on the outside. So
Hmm.
obviously that's a concern. If you're Miami, because obviously if your secondary is untested or unproven, maybe is a better way to put it, and then in the same breath look at what we did, because I
Yeah,
think everybody, including every Aggie, was like, I can't wait Evan Stewart to go for 270 and 4 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, maybe it was Noah Thomas. So
yeah.
what?
Going for
Where?
going for the hat trick. I
I
mean,
mean, yeah. I mean, where do you shut it down? Because you're like, all right, we're going to focus on shutting on Evan Stewart. And I thought the New Mexico coach, I'm fairly certain he said it. It's like we really want to make sure we shut him down. Well, the problem is now you have Noah Thomas, now you have Moose, now you have Anias. So there's just so much. It's kind of one of those pick your poison. I think is maybe going to be, and it's and again we have a 1 game data point, right? We have 1 game to look at.
mhm.
But unlike past years, the opponent that we were supposed to smash, we smashed, as opposed to like 31-0 with Sam, and it was a frustrating 31. And so I think there's a ton of reason for optimism in this game. Miami, they don't bring fans. Yeah, I think I saw on Twitter they were bragging about having 40,000 fans at their game. I'm like, we had 40,000 students.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you have to keep in mind with Miami, especially with the environment that we're going into. I'm already feeling the vibe of the inside of the stadium is going to be extremely reminiscent of when we played Colorado at Mile High. It's going to be about 50-50. I think there's going to be a ton of A&M alumni there, as well as people who are just traveling, people who actually live in Florida that are Aggies. So if we're talking home field advantage from a true standpoint of the visual of the game, that's not going to really be there for Miami. I think the other issue that Miami has is same with us. We're talking about the first 2 games. Yeah, maybe a little untested, and maybe we didn't completely show our hand. Maybe they didn't either. And
Well,
so
yeah, and when you're putting up 250 on the ground, you don't have to show your hand at all. You just hand the ball off and push.
always, yeah.
And I don't know if Miami, Ohio is going to be any good this year, but generally speaking, they're not. So one can deduce from that. They didn't have to show their hand, but quite frankly, neither did we.
No,
We looked explosive. We put up a lot of points on the board, but we didn't do anything real special. And I think that's where a ton of optimism should come from, is that we didn't really open up the playbook and we put 52 points on the board.
well, to quote our good friend Jimbo Fisher, we executed. You know, uh, there was a
Well, like
lot.
I tell you what, people won't be as sick of that buzzword this year when we execute.
Exactly. And I mean, you saw there was an even distribution of a lot of different players receiving balls, phenomenal passing. I mean, 18 for 23, 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions, no turnovers, which has
No,
always been the crutch, right?
it's so huge.
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world. When you're not making stupid mistakes, life gets better. Now, that being said, within our game, for those that watched, there were a couple of things here and there. We had the 1 touchdown drive plus a couple of silly penalties that did set up for a field goal. And a lot of people were also kind of iffy that maybe those penalties were a little soft. Regardless, they still got called. But you
Well,
take
yeah,
away
it's
those.
soft or not, they got enforced.
Yeah. So at this point, we really did our job, and especially offensively, there's no question about that. So taking those factors into the Miami game, there's a lot of confidence, at least in my opinion, that A&M fans should have going into this game. Now, we shouldn't be going in there like, oh, we're going to smash them, but you're going on the road. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be hot and
You're talking to me. I'm me and the maroon Kool-Aid.
oh yeah, no, I got a full cup right here. No, it's
Nice.
just coffee,
Um,
but
it's going to be interesting. We put up generally about the same amount of offense.
yeah.
Theirs was just split a little bit more evenly. We were at 440, they were at 490, and honestly, 50 yards of offense is that one, honestly, that one pass play, maybe,
Mhm.
they got called back. But I wasn't upset about it. And again, we didn't rack up 140 yards of penalties. We didn't have any like mega drive killing penalties. And so and here's the word, the execution, right? And the execution also, it's not just running your routes, it's not just blocking, it's doing it properly, doing it how you were taught.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just so much positive to take from the game. And maybe the flip side is you really got to dig to find some negatives. And maybe that's a better way to approach it. Not so much, yeah, look at the points we scored and look at the yards we put up and holy crap, Noah Thomas. Like,
Mhm.
hey, look at how we minimize mistakes. Look at how we made a very simple play calling approach be incredibly effective.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the negatives, like we didn't kill ourselves with drives, or with we didn't kill drives with penalties. We didn't do anything stupid defensively. We didn't get total, like a dude just running free 70 yards down the field,
Yeah.
like like the Clemson secondary, for instance.
Yeah. Oh, Clemson, man.
Hey, how about this? Cheers to Mike Elko.
Mike Elko, man. He's about to get paid.
He
He's about
should.
to, as he should. And,
It will be well deserved.
we were a little disappointed that he left, but I mean, here's the deal. You have the opportunity, you've got the skills, you got to take advantage of your opportunities. Your first head coaching gig after you leave here, and you're crushing it. You just took down number 9 at home with a perennial underachieving football program.
No, well, no, you just took down number 9 Clemson, and you coach for a basketball school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I was actually talking about this with Megan. It's not like he rolled out of here and took a D2 job. And I get that, like you said, Duke is perennially underachieving minus a few years here and there under Cutcliffe.
yeah.
But it's Duke. Like, you take the job, like,
Well, consider this. You have 2 perennial top level basketball schools with 2 phenomenal football coaches now, with obviously Mac Brown and Mike Elko. I think
I thought you were
that
going to say Jimbo.
Oh, Jimbo.
Soon to be perennial basketball powerhouse, Texas A&M.
Yes, soon to be.
So,
Mark your
going
calendars.
into this, like you said, I thought that was a great analogy, honestly, the Colorado game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could, and again, they don't sell that stadium out, and I get that Miami fans are trying to get hyped up and all this stuff, but the reality remains that no matter how hyped up they try to get, they only put so many people in the stands, right? And if they're bragging about 40,000, that place seats more than 40,000. So I'd be willing to bet that there are going to be a ton of maroon shirts in that, in the stands on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, as long as we don't have a Colorado-esque performance, but
Fingers crossed, knock on wood.
But I think that's a great analogy. Just relative to the 2 fan bases, Colorado. I remember the days when Colorado was a powerhouse in the '90s, and I get it. Rashawn Salam, back in those days, but they're just not, and they've fallen way off. But now all of a sudden, you have Dion kind of bringing them back. I don't know about Mario Cristobal. To me, I don't know if it's going to work at Miami, but sometimes I feel like maybe that's not Cristobal, maybe that's Miami. I mean, look at the support they're getting.
Yeah.
But can they kind of snowball affect that, roll it down the hill, and all these donors and fans and graduates, alumni, go, hey, I remember when the U was a thing of pride, and I want to be a part of bringing this back. So it'll be interesting to watch kind of how Miami continues to go, because again, they had a setback like we did last year at 5-7, and I guarantee you that is, well, it's unacceptable at any school. But a school like Miami is no different than here. It's completely unacceptable. So I'll be interested to see how Cristobal really gets the ball rolling. I don't think he's a bad coach. I'm not saying that at all. I don't know how Miami is going, like the fan base and the alumni are going to respond to success, because it's been so long. They've been down for so long. Are they gonna hop on board?
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime you can get a major city, major metropolitan area to really get behind a college team, that's a special deal. And because obviously you consider schools like Texas A&M or Texas Tech or Oklahoma State or any of these,
it's super organic from alumni.
Right. It's truly small town college towns where you build your fan base, and then regionally it grows. And yeah, you start pulling alumni from all of your major metropolitans, but at the end of the day, you have that centralized, this is home base. This is what makes us special, is that we have this school. So Texas A&M is a great example of that, as is Texas Tech, as is yada, yada, yada. You go down the list. Now, a school like Miami, of course, you are locked in a major metropolitan area where there are so many other things going on that aren't college sports.
So, you know what? Here's a great parallel. While you're talking through this, it just dawned on me. U of H, the old run and gun back in the day.
Yeah.
The city of Houston, it's like the third largest city in the nation, has really one major university, right? And all of a sudden you see what the basketball program's doing. You see what the football program's trying to do and build. And you got an entire, and they're almost like, I don't want to say passive fans. But when there's not anything else to do, like, why not go support the Cougs, right? In Houston, right? Why not, right? And I think, but here's, and not to say that Houston, look, love Houston. I'm a time baby, but yeah, not to say there's not a ton of stuff to do in Houston, but Miami, I think, is a little bit different because Houston's not necessarily your biggest tourist kind of town, right?
No, I mean, obviously you got NASA and a few other things, but Miami is a destination.
And Miami is a destination city, and I love Houston. I love it. I do. And if people would unlock some things relative to, just opening their mind a little bit, Houston really is kind of a destination city to an extent, especially if you love to eat. So maybe I'm biased because I love to eat, but but Miami is, it's not just, and look, NASA and everything in the Astros and NRG, and there's the rodeo. I get, like, there's a ton to do in Houston, but Miami's just different. It's got a different vibe. Houston's very industrial. There's a ton of stuff to do, but you're generally there on business, or you're maybe in town to watch your team, like you're knocking off an MLB stadium off your bucket list. But Miami, you can go to Miami 4 different times and have 4 completely different experiences. Houston is, it's awesome, and they've done a ton with downtown Houston. They've done a ton to develop Houston, but just Miami and Houston are not the same. So I think it'll be a little bit harder to pull people in because generally there's a million things to do in Miami, and the people that live in Miami love to do those million things. So that's where I think if they're going to if they get something rolling, if Mario Cristobal can really get something rolling and really, he's going to have to pull in the alumni. He's going to need Michael Irvin in Miami on a regular basis. He's going to need some of those big studs, that played in Miami back in the day when the U was like, you did this anywhere and everybody knew exactly what you were talking about. So I think it's kind of one of those, what, Messi being there is a perfect example. Nobody in Miami cares about that sport. Messi shows up, can't buy a ticket. Bring those big names, those personalities, because Miami's kind of that town. Miami, LA, New York City, they love the big names. The popular people do something, so everybody will latch onto it. So I think if Cristobal can get it rolling, and can really tap into Hall of Famers, quite frankly, to come back and make it cool. If it's cool in Miami, people will do it. In Houston, if it works, they'll do it.
Yeah,
it's just a more industrial take. So, but I feel like Miami and Houston are maybe to an extent because that's their team, right?
Yeah, well, and you see that, and no doubt Miami, and it does help that they are positioned in a conference now. Obviously, with ACC, it's where it's standing. The way it's standing at this point, I mean, Miami very easily could give itself a nice little bump. There's no question about that. But
well, yeah, and what's hilarious is literally by the time you get this edited and released, the ACC may be gone. It's such an insane world that we're living in with conference realignment.
Right,
and I hate it. I'll be quite frank, I hate it. And I understand that, I don't want to go back to the Southwest Conference. I don't want to play 7 teams in Texas, but like, just regionally it makes no sense. And I'm not a big fan of, like, Notre Dame is in the ACC for some sports and not others, well, because they're not dumb and they realize that, nonprofit generating, non-revenue sports, like, you're really taking to the tank if you got to start flying people from coast to coast. And they're talking about, with the ACC talking about playing games in Dallas because it's like the in-between. That's no, that's not how any of this works. You agreed to be in the conference that was on the Atlantic coast. Figure it out or house the program. It's that simple.
Right.
And because everything's happening with conference realignment, it's forcing these decisions, which I think are absolute crap for the schools to have to make. Um, if you want to do football only, though, I don't know why the Pac-12 can't still remain for every other sport. So again, they're realigning. These commissioners and these presidents are talking about all this realignment, and you're getting it coming out of both sides of their mouth. And like, I'm fine with whatever, but this crap about like playing baseball games in Dallas,
Yeah.
no, not at all. Like, you and I are the same group. Like, non-conference early season games should be on campus kind of crowd. Like,
Right.
quit playing in random places.
Yeah.
The only game that I approve of being completely random places is the Army Navy game. Not to mention that's the end of the year, anyways.
Well, and I do tend to agree that if there are a handful of spots out there where you have seen, traditionally neutral site spots, that makes a lot more sense. Where Oklahoma and Texas, of course,
Yeah, sort of. But I mean, I remember A&M playing Florida State for a season kickoff, and it was like up in New Jersey. So the sites we're at haven't always been the sites. The sites that we're playing these neutral site non-conference early season games, it's just gone to the highest bidder, which is exactly what college football has gone to with the rule changes. We changed the rules not to shorten the amount of time that the game takes, like on a time spectrum. You're just gonna get less football and more ads. And so it's really kind of caving to it. And my first thought was, when this all kind of came out, with the the new clock rules, obviously there's going to be 8 to 10 less plays a game is kind of what we're seeing generally, which means that's just more commercials, it's more revenue they're getting to cram in there. My first thought was golf, and if you watch golf, you know what I'm talking about. They call it the playthrough, like playthrough pad, or I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they split screen, and to where you have like, you can still watch what's going on and they still have an ad. So let's, like, you show me both, but keep playing football. Like, because all of a sudden now the idea isn't to shorten it. It never had anything to do with shorten the length of the games. Never did. Like, they'll never be able to convince me that was your idea.
No, that was always the thought process, was going to be, how much extra money can we squeeze out of this stuff? And that's the way it's always been with them. It's driving me nuts. And not to mention, we've talked about conference realignment. It's absolutely bonkers. And frankly, I've hit a point where it's like, where can we make this stuff make sense? I mean, we're talking, why on earth is Cal and Stanford going all the way to the Atlantic coast for a volleyball game on a Tuesday night?
It's completely asinine.
Completely.
And you're going to end up with some schools all of a sudden redoing their budgets in a year or two and going, wow, that was a really poor decision. It's the game clock thing doesn't bug me. I don't mind it being a little bit more like the NFL. I don't mind the clock not stopping every first down. I really don't.
Yeah.
But the complaints, I didn't go to the game, right? So the complaints I've heard is it's just even worse when you're in stadium. It's even more choppy than it ever was. You're looking over the sideline with the dude with the red oven mitt, right? The guy's letting know. Apparently it's made it even less contiguous than it was, like, throughout the game.
Yeah,
and I get that TV drives revenue, but I think the one thing that we need to remember is there is a very stark difference between NFL and college, and there always needs to be. It's important that college football has its own unique thing and its own unique important things. NFL fans are generally geographically located, or they're loyal from birth. So they're either geographically where they're at, that's their fandom, or where they grew up is their fandom. It's got nothing to, that's literally your only attachment at the NFL level. And NFL fans, we've said this probably 1,000 times. NFL fans are the worst.
Terrible.
They're the absolute worst. College fans and like the college atmosphere, it's just so different. And I just don't want that to change, because the product, due to the new clock rules, makes going to a game kind of shitty. Like, I don't want that to change this sport, because I'm still a firm believer it's the greatest sport in this nation. I know NFL ratings absolutely smash everything, but I will always say college football, that for me is like leaps and bounds above the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed college
for entertainment
sports.
value.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, even with NIL and everything else going on, college still has that air of amateurism, which is a lot of fun to watch. And you do see the disparity of talent from top to bottom is a lot higher than it is in the NFL. The lowest level NFL team does not equate to a New Mexico State or a UMass or any of those type of teams. So when a team like that can sneak up and grab somebody, it really is a special occasion, especially for that area, for those fans, because it's so easy to just say, oh, well, I'm a Texas fan, I'm a Alabama fan, I'm a USC fan, I'm a Michigan, Ohio State. List off all your blue bloods in quotes. But when you are an App State fan or a Boise State fan or a New Mexico State fan, you are very much in a niche point in the market, but it's special to you, especially when you pull it out.
Being a college fan, I think there's just a ton more investment emotionally.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think you just have way more emotional capital from a college level. And I agree. And to watch the small schools, we got bit by App State last year, right?
Yeah.
Like, what a reward. You support a smaller college, you went there or you grew up there and you still live there, and to see them, come up with that. That's why gambling on the NFL is so difficult, because all of those dudes are pros, and the worst team in the league can beat the best team on any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday.
Kind of the same in college, but there's talent, there's distinct talent gaps.
There's no question about that. All right, and we're back. Sorry about that, y'all. We had a quick little break, but yes, NFL, college football, all the excitement. It's been great. It's been good. Couldn't be happier to be back.
What's weird is I've said it before, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. I always have been. I grew up, the first NFL games I can remember watching were sitting on the couch with my dad watching the Cowboys. And again, regionally, right? I loved watching the Oilers because I was from Houston, but I was a Cowboys fan.
That's fair.
But I think the NFL for me now has the allure is probably more fantasy football than it is watching. Well, and maybe that's because I'm a Cowboys fan. It's not very exciting to watch the stinking Cowboys every year. Just break my heart.
Yeah.
But I put this on Twitter. I think you probably saw it. I'm in a fantasy football league with a bunch of former Tomb Guards, and we have like the world's coolest trophy now. We took one of our Tomb Guards. I have a few pair, and so I took one of them and sent it off to this dude. He got it chromed. So like a Tomb Guard shoe on a plaque is our new trophy. So
that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I'll probably post it again when fantasy football starts up. I have my draft tomorrow night, and I'll be at bowling league, so that's great.
Nice healthy combo there. Yeah.
Well, look, for tomorrow night only, bowling is going to take a back seat.
Yeah,
until I get to like round 10, and then I'm just going to let it fly.
That's it. Exactly. Well, we just got to secure those top spots. So, who's just quick little aside focusing on. So, who are some key position players that you just absolutely need?
Hey, we're talking fantasy football for a second. I'll talk fantasy football. Let's don't get crazy.
Oh, that's fine. Like ideally, who do you want right now?
So I'm not a quarterback first round guy, and most fantasy guys aren't. Sometimes I have a hard time being running back first round guy, because one, we've just seen so many running backs over the years, the number one, number two running back, and they get hurt week one.
Right.
And quarterbacks, they unless you're in a weird scoring league, they don't generally put up the kind of points other guys. So I'll generally go wide receiver, running back, round one, round two, except for the can't miss tight ends, right? Darren Waller is all over everybody's board this year. I think Darren Waller's a great tight end pickup if you can get him in like the third or fourth round. It's one of those. It's like Kelsey. You'll reach up in the first couple of rounds and grab him, because I roll PPR, points per reception, right? So I'm a PPR league. So tight ends can be just as valuable as a number one wide receiver. I always, every year, make sure I have an Aggie on my roster, even if it's a kicker. But I always have an Aggie on my roster, and it makes it easy because Mike Evans, the guy he just wakes up and spits out 1,000-yard seasons. I think A-Chain is going to be a fun late round grab. I think he could be incredibly dynamic in that offense, where it's just like zoom offense. They have so much speed, Miami. I'm not really big on any quarterback this year
Hmm.
because since I don't get quarterbacks, early,
Yeah.
I generally don't get Mahomes. I don't, I don't get the dudes that like the few proven commodities are going to put up numbers. The Josh Allen's, right?
Right.
So if I don't, if I'm in a situation where I'd rather, rather just take a quarterback late, um, I like Kenny Pickett.
I was about to say that was the first name that popped in my head was Kenny Pickett. Might
Yeah,
be a halfway decent pickup just because I mean there's not a lot of expectations around the Steelers, but they do have some
but they're
pretty
the but
decent talent.
like we
Yeah.
said, it's the NFL, right? So these
Yeah.
are all NFL caliber players. So
Yeah.
the opportunity, and again, that's the beauty of fantasy football. They don't have to win a lot of games to be successful for fantasy.
Yeah.
Um,
Kenny be good. Christian Kirk, talk about Aggies.
yeah, C Kirk's another great one just because he's so dynamic. And obviously with Fitzgerald, gone, he really is kind of the centerpiece of that offense to an extent. Plus he returns punts, so there's
Yeah.
value there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not real big on running backs unless they're pass catching running backs because I think we've seen quite a bit in the NFL. There's only a few teams that really truly go like bell cow running back, lean on him the entire game. So, you've got the
Tennessee
goal.
Titans.
Right. There's only a couple. Derrick Henry's one of those guys. 100,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. But there's just not a ton of them.
Hmm.
And um, I'm not a big guy on poaching the third down goal line running back either, because if they don't get to the goal line, you're not going to get anything out of the guy. So again, because
Yeah.
I'm in a PPR league, I like the guys that are more dynamic, and that's where I think A-Chain could be a massive steal. And I'll pick him up in the 6th or 7th round, if he's still sitting around there.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so yeah, so those kind of guys I'm big on. The bell cows. If you're going to get a Derrick Henry, you got to handcuff him, right? You got to have the backup because we've just seen, but that it's a true testament to the physicality of the NFL.
yeah.
Is that running backs really can't be the dude anymore as much as they used to be. There's, we don't have an entire league of Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, all those guys, just Jerome Bettis, being a 35, 30 carry, 35 carry a game kind of back. It's the players have gotten too big. They've gotten too physical, too fast. And
Yeah.
it takes so much of a toll that you just can't,
Well, in the game,
like,
the game's changed. I mean, there's so much additional focus on, it's no different than like, consider baseball. Everybody loves a good home run. Everybody loves the long, deep touchdown pass.
mhm.
Everybody loves the mobile quarterback. Those are things that are dynamically changing where all of a sudden the role of our running backs just don't feel the same level as they used to. It's just part of the game.
Yeah,
And
3 yards in a cloud of dust is a long, long time ago. And
yeah,
never forget, chicks dig the long ball. So it's
ex-
home runs, whether it's in baseball or it's the home run shot, in football, tossing one over the top and having your receiver, even, what's the old saying? If he's even, he's leaving. Shoulder to shoulder with the defender, catching stride, and he's gone.
yeah.
So it's
There's nothing sexy about running straight up the middle and bulldozing people like Toombs or Jaworski Lane anymore in the eyes of
anymore.
the
I was gonna
people.
say it was sexy.
I love don't get me wrong. I love going back and watching that Toombs run that he had against Oklahoma where he's just rolling and bowling all the way to the goal line.
Yep.
That's beautiful football to me. And I love that, but that's a different era.
Yeah, I grew up in an era where they put Refrigerator Perry in the backfield. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the fridge scoring touchdowns is one of the
like,
best things, man.
And I get, when you get down the goal line, they'll still do that. But what's even funny now, I'm just kind of trying to remember as much as I can in short, real quick. Like, you see a ton more play action at the goal line, even in the NFL now.
Yeah.
It's just such a dynamic game because again, the athletes are they're just worlds away where they were when I was growing up, as a kid watching the NFL.
Yeah.
So
even, you could say the Roger Staubachs and the Terry Bradshaws and all of those guys and the way those O lines were built and everybody, it's hard to believe that those guys, and we love those quarterbacks and we love those teams, but would they even survive in a modern day NFL against all these other cats? I don't know, but makes it entertaining though.
But at the same time, we also live in a world where in Premier League, if somebody sneezes at you, you go rolling. So athletes have learned to game the system a little bit. The NBA is the same. I think you see it in the NFL too, a little bit, and not to the same extent. But back then, those guys were like, you knock a tooth out and they go back in. Like Ronnie Lott was like, cut off the end of my finger so I can get back in the game. Like it's a different mentality, and not that it's a bad mentality. They're actually thinking about quality of life after the game. So that's probably not the. It's one of those. All you guys suck. All you guys suck. You guys are lame. No, I just, I want to be able to hold my kids when I'm 35. Like,
Yeah, I don't like having 25 concussions a year. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. And we love the game of football, but obviously injury is a big problem, has been for years, continues to be a problem. So,
Well, and it's also it hasn't grown. It's just the awareness.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody knew about knees and ankles, but you're talking about head injuries. You're talking about stuff that's a lot more serious.
Walk
So
it off, be a tough
yeah,
guy. Yeah, walk off my concussion here.
what are you talking about, psycho? Uh, a couple that I'm probably staying away. I'll wrap it real quick on fantasy. Couple I'm probably staying away from.
Mm,
I think Kittle doesn't have a very good year this year. George Kittle.
yeah.
And again, this is just my opinion. I don't know. I just kind of what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I got burned by this guy, so I'm not getting this guy ever again. But J.K. Dobbins, and I'm in a PPR league. Like they don't throw the ball to him, so unless he's getting 150 yards on the ground, I get nothing out of that guy. And that's if he stays healthy.
Yeah. What have you done for me lately, buddy?
Totally not bitter whatsoever. Hell yeah. But yeah, so yeah, no, I mean, I love fantasy football though. I'm only in one league this year, but I have my Dixie Chicken Hawks and my San Antonio Banderas.
Okay. Those are two phenomenal team names. Do you know what my team name was forever and always? My team name has always been the Alabama Thunder Pussies, which is, mind you,
sounds like a roller derby team.
It's a band name. It's a real band. And the thing is, the way I made the logo, I'll show it to you later, but it does have
it's safe for work.
So it's the Alabama like Crimson Tide like circle, but in the middle of it.
Nope, I'm done. You're good. You're good. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Grumpy Cat with lightning bolts coming out of him.
Okay, it may not be a roller derby team, but I guarantee you that's a band that plays at roller derby.
But here's the deal: that band at roller derby won 2 leagues in a row. So,
no, that's fair. Yeah, no, I mean, I have a ton of fun with it too. Like I've had losing seasons where I've put out press releases that the team is relocating.
Yeah.
One of my favorites from way back in the day, my oldest sister played fantasy when she was here in college, so like in early mid 90s.
Yeah.
And she had the San Antonio Banderas is actually, I think it was hers. So I kind of stole that from her. And then they had the Idaho iconoclasts. So the logo was just a white helmet. Like, no logo, no nothing. But
that's
anyways,
phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here nerding things up.
Hey, nothing wrong with being nerdy, man. It's a podcast. Let's have some fun with it, man.
That's fair. Oh, who I also don't draft, Dak Prescott.
Yeah, no.
I try and stay away from Cowboys. It's kind of like don't bet on your own team. Like,
yeah, no, that's bad juju.
Well, because then if the Cowboys lose and they suck, you're mad for 2 reasons. Because both the Cowboys and your fantasy team is terrible. So it's like when you gamble on the team that you love, if they lose, like if you bet on them to win and they lose, not only are you mad they lose, you're out of money.
Yeah, so, it's kind of a double take there.
In all of my gambling, the only time I've ever really bet on Aggie football is like over the summer national championship odds, just because they're so ridiculous. I'm like, what's $100, right?
Yeah, and you know what?
That over 4 months. I'm like, I'm only paying like 30 cents. It's like would you save a polar bear? It only costs you 7 cents a day. Like this bet really only cost me 7 cents a day.
Well, you put it in, and here's the deal: when it does happen, if it does happen, all of a sudden, it's like a double whammy because you're just like, boom, boom, congratulations.
Yeah,
plus I got paid.
That's the only time that I'll bet on the eggs because it's like the double joy, right?
Yeah.
But on a weekly basis, no way. It's stressful enough watching the eggs.
The only time I've ever bet on a sporting event was one time, 2012. We were getting there ahead of this was, football. Johnny Manziel's cruising, doing his thing. We were there the same week that A&M was playing Auburn on the road and beat the dog out of them. We were playing Mississippi State that next week. And the thing was State, who had been, I think, only 1 loss or undefeated going into that Alabama game. And Bama was like a 21-point favorite or something ridiculous. I said, no way. Mississippi State's undefeated. They're going to keep it within 21. I put money on Mississippi State. What happened? Alabama dogged them because, of course, they did. So I was like, well, never betting on sports again. That's good to know.
Well, you have better restraint than I do. I do care to gamble from time to time. Not as much as I used to, though.
I mean, I'll gamble. I just don't do it on sports. most of the time.
Are you betting on debate teams?
No, I'll go. I'm a big. I like poker.
Oh, I got you.
I
Yeah,
mean, like I don't do betting. Like I
general
don't.
casino, just gambling. You
Yeah,
don't bet. Okay, that's fair.
yeah. No, I'll gamble, but I won't like bet on sports. Let's put it there. There you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want to bet on sports because it's something that you can't control. So, why not gamble on a deck of cards that you can wait? Although poker, yeah, there's a science to poker. There is a science to
poker. Poker, you have a lot. You at least have a hand on the wheel when you're playing poker.
There's a human element on both sides of your cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right,
not necessarily working against the house.
Right. So I want to get into something. So this is completely random, and this goes back to me being cynical, and not being as cynical anymore. So BAAACK Realty Group, we fall under Tom Ferry. He's a global real estate coach, just unbelievable, fantastic. And so we're kind of like under the Tom Ferry coaching tree or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And every year they have summit, and it's this big thing up in Dallas. This year we didn't go. We watched it remotely as a team, instead of like having to go up to Dallas. And it's super informational. Obviously, here we don't just sit there for 3 days and talk about the market. It's a ton of how to build your business, because even no matter who you work for, technically you're still your own business as a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought out the keynote speaker, and I want to talk about this, and I'll be brief.
Sure.
But the keynote speaker, his name was Sean Aker. It's not it's ACHOR, not like acre like land. It's like anchor without an N, Aker. And he basically studies positivity, and he's hilarious, so it helps. But the dude's he's like a Harvard guy, but now he goes around and gives speeches just talking about the effects of positivity that they actually have, like math, because he's a Harvard guy, so he doesn't just study happiness. The quantifiable studies with results. And he just talked about the power of positivity in your life, and I'm not going to sit here and rah everything. I get it. But he talked about 4 habits that you can have in your daily life. You don't have to have you don't do all 4. You can just pick one. And one of them was every day you write down 3 positive things about your partner or somebody in your life, and you don't necessarily share it with them. You don't have to. You can if you want, and you can't repeat. So you always have to find 3 new positive things about someone in your life. Another one was every day for 2 minutes, literally just unplug, and you don't have to like full-blown meditate, but just unplug and just kind of everything. No, don't think about work, just it's kind of like your own personal little quiet time for 2 minutes. Just completely unplug, put your phone down, put everything down, close your laptop. And then the other one was every day sending a gratitude text. So everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a ton of contacts in there, right? Mm-hmm. Well, every day, and this is kind of the other, it takes 2 minutes kind of thing. Every day sending a text to someone in your life, whether currently in your life or they just happen to still be in your phone, and just send them a text, all the things you appreciate about them, and just let them know you're thankful for whatever role they either play or played in your life. And it's weird. It's not weird. It's crazy how much the positivity, how much response you get out of that positivity, and the response is positive. So you're not only like, you feel good about letting people know that you like them, right? You feel good about giving people compliments. It's an endorphin kind of release.
Mm-hmm.
You feel good when you're good, when you're nice, right? It makes you feel good. And then to have the response and the ability to reconnect with people, and that's where I'm doing it alphabetically in my phone. So like look, Williams, Rob, it's gonna be a while, Rob.
That's all good.
But it's amazing how you can also reconnect those relationships and almost kind of rekindle them to an extent, just to let people know that you care about them, and just let them know why they were important to you, and why they're still important. And it's weird because, again, I'm not generally your rah positivity guy, right? I get it. I know, but it has really kind of changed my daily outlook. And what's weird is being a little bit more positive and kind of a little bit better spirits on a daily basis. I've literally seen my business pick up. Mm-hmm. Like, it's crazy. They stand up there on stage and say, if you're more positive, things go better for you. You're like, yeah, sure, right, whatever. But I kind of dedicated myself to doing this, and it has been such a positive impact on me. It's been a positive impact. Hopefully, like here in the house with my wife and kiddo, I hope they notice that, maybe I'm a little bit more positive than I generally was. But it's also been so positive to be able to reach out and talk to people that, I haven't talked to in a while, to be quite honest. Yeah. And that's on me, because the phone goes both ways, right? Mm-hmm. why haven't they reached out to me? Well, why don't you just reach out to them? Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah,
It's 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes.
yeah, the opportunity's there. Take it, and the thing is, life is very short. And I will say, too, and kind of piggybacking off of what you've been talking about, I think the thing is, there's so much going on in this world for us to not waste energy on negative thoughts and negative feelings all the time. And unfortunately, you surround yourself, like a lot of us end up surrounding ourselves with people who don't necessarily fit that mold. You've got people, in life that, for whatever reason, life has just been kicking them around. Things just aren't working out. And I understand that's not easy, going through, whether it's a business failing, whether it's you didn't get your job that you wanted. I listened to and through a handful of these things, but one of the phrases that always comes back is good. And the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's bad because it's good. If it's bad in the moment, that has just presented you with a new opportunity to grow through it and get better. If you didn't get that job, it's because you weren't supposed to get that job. Go get a different job that's probably going to be better. Yeah. In this initial look, you're not thinking about it. You're just frustrated you didn't get that job. But if you just dwell on that, you're never, ever going to move forward into the next slot. So you just have to keep staying positive, finding the silver lining in the cloud, and just keep moving forward, because there's no point in staying in the same place.
Well,
And
and,
just
and an initial or momentary letdown can't turn into permanent disappointment. It just can't. and it's just like we're just going to end up being motivational speakers here for a second. And it's kind of, but it's up to all of us too. When those people are in your life and they're having a rough time, like, it's our job to help pick each other up, right?
Absolutely.
And it goes both ways. Like, if you can be a little selfish, like, be selfish because it feels good to help others. Like, what a great way to be selfish. I want to feel better by helping others. You know what?
Nothing wrong with
deal with that.
Hey, you get the endorphin boost. I mean, I get the endorphin boost. You get
everybody
the
does
praise, and you enjoy it. Everybody benefits when you all support each other. And there's too much going on in this world for us to continue to just be haters of things and be irritable about things. And I can speak to the music industry just as a quick little aside. I'm not in the business anymore. Let me stress, anymore, of being, a hater of anybody's music. And I mean anybody's music. Everybody has a certain level of success that they've gotten themselves to. And, not all paths are the same. Not every single journey has been the same, but you've gotten to where you're at for whatever reason. And I fully understand and support your ability to get there the way that you're supposed to get there.
Well, and there is different for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you know what there for me is? There for me is pretty simple. I can do music full time with zero worries about anything financial going forward. That would be me making it. It doesn't matter if I'm selling out arenas doing that, or I'm doing it playing the same songs for 15 weekends over the summer, just cruising along doing the same thing. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you're finding joy in what you're doing and you're making money doing it, there's nothing wrong with it, man. And bless you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and that's the biggest thing. So, like, the biggest takeaway, and if you ever, like, he's on YouTube. Some of his talks have been filmed, and they're like hour-long talks. He's a true keynote speaker. His name is Sean Aker, SHAUAW. Let me spell it right.
Sean.
SHAWNACHOR. Sean Aker. He's fantastic, and he's funny. He's a good watch. But yeah. So I've been impacted by positivity. I kind of wanted to share that. But before we go, I think I forgot to plug some things. I'm fairly certain you have some things to plug.
Everything to plug. Let's just throw all the plugs in. Let's break out the little power strip here. What did you got?
Yeah, so one of the things that's happened since we were here. I've got a new YouTube channel. It's called Ribs Real Estate and Rambling. It's at Triple R. and I'm trying to showcase really the personalities and the people here in the Brazos Valley, and kind of really showcase the the area, and show people how many amazing people we have around here.
Yeah.
So last I release it every Friday. We film up at Cooper's, up off the bypass, and so like last week we had Dr. Lofton, sat down with Dr. Lofton and talked. And what I always say in the episode is, I mean, is there any other way to have a great conversation in Texas other than sitting over a couple plates of barbecue, right?
Yeah.
And then on the same channel, I've been putting out, Monday was Labor Day, so I didn't get one out yesterday. It was a holiday, so I didn't get all my info together because it was a holiday. But but I'm doing a Monday market update on Mondays. It's a lot from a Fed level, but I try to localize it as best I can. Those are generally like 5 to 7 minute videos, but just a little heads up, if you're in the market or you just kind of want to know what's going on because you own a home. And then the Ribs Real Estate and Ramblings episodes on Fridays, those are generally about a half hour. And I try to ask questions that not every other interviewer has asked, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody's seen the same interview for Dr. Lofton, right? 100 times. So like I asked him about physics, and I asked him about his time at NASA. I don't remember hearing that. I asked him about when he was president of TAMU Galveston, when they had to do that entire like evacuate the school thing. I thought that's fascinating. I just don't see a ton of it ever covered.
But one more time, let's hear how the SEC move happened, because we've all heard the story.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I could bring it back and do an episode on that, but you can read the book. You can go find a million videos on it. I talked to Max Crawford, our local weather guy. It's fascinating. He's a hilarious personality. He's a fantastic human being.
Love that guy.
Like why not talk to him, kind of thing. So it's been a Hunter shirtlift.
Yeah.
His wife Marka, you were shirtlift. Like just fun conversation, just kind of talking about things. So I've got a YouTube channel if you want to go to it. I put out like kind of shortcut reels when I release it. But if you're on Instagram and you're looking at it, just go to the Instagram bio, and the link's in the bio to the YouTube channel. And just like ours, remember, like, subscribe, comment, because metrics matter, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, no question.
You can leave comments, but if nothing else, please, just like, subscribe. You don't have to turn on notifications, because if you subscribe to 48 different channels, the notifications can get to be a bit much. I understand that. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on in my life, marketing wise, maybe is a good way to put it.
Sure. Absolutely. And that's a bunch of good stuff. So be sure to check out all of those channels. Be sure to
same channel. All the stuff's on one channel.
All on one channel.
Yeah.
All on one channel.
Yep. Just
check it
across, but I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, obviously. But yeah, it's all on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, go check out that YouTube channel all day long. Now, be sure to come jump along with me if you want. You can follow along at Shred Dirt Designs on Instagram, as well as Shred Dirt Designs on Facebook. If you want to catch up with my clothing line that we got started. If any of y'all are on YouTube and you see the hat and you like it, you want some other options, be sure to go into that link there and check out the website. There's a bunch of good stuff on there. We've got hats, we've got shirts, stickers, crop tops, hoodies, because it's gonna get cold eventually. I promise. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. Please be sure to jump in and give each of those pieces of clothing a look. That would be incredible. If you are looking for something to listen to music-wise and you have not heard about me and my band, if this may be your first time joining in on the podcast, I play with a guy named Carson Jeffrey. We are a Texas country red dirt band based out of College Station, Texas, as well as a few other associate members around the area. But be sure to jump in and check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you consume.
I have worn y'all out on Spotify.
Yeah. Be sure to check us out on all those things. We have a brand new single coming out in a couple of weeks.
Well, so when it releases, we'll make sure that we drop it in the with the podcast.
We will plug the hell out of that single when it drops.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's called Girl from Fort Worth. It is based on a true story. It is going to be a lot of fun. And we have a few music video ideas that I will share with you eventually. But we are currently holding off on those because
nice little teaser there.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. So that was a lot of good stuff. I'm very excited for us to get back in.
So am I. Yeah,
getting back on this horse. It's been a blast getting things going again. Plenty of great things coming up for both of us. College Station's just a great place to be. We enjoy being here. And And I'll say this: if you guys want to catch up with us at any time, feel free to shoot us a DM. If you do not already follow us on Twitter/X, be sure to go on there and look us up at the RedAss Podcast. Be sure to follow Roy May 15 on Twitter, as well as Rob the Slapper on Twitter. We are both on there. We are both having a great time.
Yeah, if you got, and like you said, if you got anything that you'd love us to address, you drop it in the DMs on the podcast, on our personal socials. I'm fairly certain I'm not on private.
Yeah,
if I am, then drop it on the red.
Once again, topically, no politics, but we will jump in and talk about just about anything.
Yeah, no politics.
I mean, Star Wars is going on. We've got the Ahsoka series rocking and rolling. If you want to talk a little Star Wars, we will happily do that. You want to hear about some other nerdy things, I'm all about that stuff. You want to talk music, you want to talk barbecue, you want to talk life, you want to talk about things that we can possibly really riff on, just feel free to fire them in.
It's literally anything other than politics I can generally riff on. Oh, and by the way, spoiler alert, you were just talking about the hoodies, because eventually it's not going to be hot. Spoiler alert, I brought Max Crawford on. I did not sit there for 30 minutes and yell at him about the weather. It's not Max's fault.
No, he just reports it, y'all. He can't control it.
It's I tell you what, man, born and raised in Texas, it's been a heater this summer.
I hate it, man. We had that little bit of rain. And that was so nice.
Well,
we have a chance today.
Worst part is I've seen some forecasts that it's going to be going to be like a really wet winter. So like my hell is cold and wet. So like I'm slugging through this summer like everybody else is doing. This is one of those, like, before COVID, if you wish you could have bought like stock in face mask companies. This is a kind of summer where I wish I'd bought a ton of stock in like Degree and Old Spice, because everybody's hot, miserable, and sweating. Like, exactly. I can't imagine the sales are just completely off the charts, because everybody's miserable and nobody wants to stink.
Yeah, so, exactly.
But then it's going to get cold and wet, and that's it. You'll see me on this little window. If you're on YouTube, you can see me in this one. You'll see me in this. You won't see me out there. So
I'll tell you this:
cold and wet.
You know what? And you know me, I'm almost exact opposite. I will take cold and wet at this point, especially over 100 plus with humidity every day.
You're already acclimated though, because the other day it was like 79, 81 degrees in the morning, and everybody walked out and they were like,
like it's 80 degrees, people.
Yeah, and everybody's like, man, I need to put my slippers on.
Yeah.
That's all right, man. Yeah, let's wrap this up. But I appreciate everybody out there watching, and share it with your friends, share it with people you don't like. If you don't like us, share it with people you don't like.
Oh yeah, all day.
If it upsets you, then upset them, and maybe that'll be the positivity in your day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you check it out, Sean Aker, it's a really cool speech. It's really interesting what he's kind of put together with his wife. Man, I'm just happy to be back. But it's good to see you. Good to be here talking nonsense about things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we once again, be sure to check us out on all those socials if you need to go check them out again. Just rewind it, go back a little bit, and give us a little plug. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Once again, this is the RedAss Podcast. Thank you so much for joining in. Beat the hell out of Miami, and let's go out there and have a great week. Y'all take care.
Gig 'em.
Gig 'em.